All right, so let's open it up to questions at this point.
Where do you think this springs from? Does it spring from trying to maximize profit for the state? Does it spring from an invidious attempt to demonize medical marijuana users? Or do you think it's ignorance on the part of the state to deal with sales of marijuana?
It is a mystery to me. It is, I would be lying if I told you I understood. That's what part of the insanity is. But I will tell you this, that the more there is a discussion about legalizing for recreational use, the more there is a discussion about somehow extracting money from the medical program.
You know, there's a proposal being unveiled today. Once every year they unveil. You know they're going to bring this up today to legalize it.
Right.
So do you think this goes hand in hand with that?
We're patients and caregivers,
Right.
so our position is, we want to support whatever is best for the patients. Definitely what is best for the patients is to find another source of revenue. And obviously it's absurd when you think that, imagine two households sitting side by side. In one household you have a sick patient who's paying through the nose in taxes for using medicine, and then in the next household there may be people using it recreationally who they're not being taxed. So, but all I can say is we don't take a position on legalization except in as much we watch the proposals to see if they might benefit patients. One of our ideas when the bill was first filed a few years ago was how about we take some of the revenues and somehow find a way to subsidize the medical program.
Yeah, this shouldn't be a matter of quid pro quo. Whether or not the state decides to regulate recreational marijuana should not impact whether sick people should be taxed. In and of itself, this is a bad proposal. If revenue needs to be raised, it needs to be raised through other means, whatever those means are, but the burden shouldn't fall on sick people for making use of this very important program.
The money you spend for medical marijuana now, is there any tax paid on that?
Yes, there is.
Is it,
Well, first of all, there are fees. Every patient, every caregiver pays a fee to the health department. No one just walks into the medical marijuana program.
Right.
The first thing, the doctor signs the application, then you go to the health department. It might take 2 months. Patients pay $100, $25 if you're on SSI, SSJ, or Medicaid. Caregivers pay $200.
it's to get a ticket to be in the program.
Yeah,
But do you
just to get in.
pay anything on the marijuana you buy?
If you use the compassion centers, you pay 7% sales tax. In addition, as I said before, they're paying 4% tax now on their gross monthly. They pay a tax every month on their gross revenues of 4%. That gets passed along to the patients.
That's in the, you paying 11%?
Basically,
Correct.
basically.
To the compassion center passes along to you.
That's correct.
So the governor's number is $17,000 per plant is raised every year. First word, I imagine you guys have seen somehow that number break down. So just any comments on that? And then also, if it's not 17,000, what is that number?
Well, again, I want to say there is no revenue that comes from a plant. A plant is your medicine, you use it. If you asked most patients what the monetary value of an ounce is, they don't know unless they've been to the compassion center and seen something comparable. They have no way of knowing. They don't know. It's their medicine.
So a caregiver doesn't actually make any profit off of this at all, not at all?
A caregiver is legally prohibited from making a profit for their patients. Now, there was an adjustment to the law when the compassion centers open so that caregivers can sell excess medicine to the compassion centers. Now, if they're doing that, now they're a business. They're paying taxes and everything. So that is the only category of caregiver that can do that.
As any caregiver who has surplus that they want to supply to a compassion center, they're able to do that and they're compensated for that.
Sure, if they have the relationship.
So that has a monetary value.
That does, but that's a small category.
Any caregiver can do that
Well,
if they want to and have the surplus.
well, you have to have a relationship with the compassion center. They're not obligated to take it. So the people who do that, I don't know what the exact number is, but it's a small percentage that have that kind of relationship with the compassion centers where they have that
So
arrangement.
very few do that.
Very few, and in fact, there'll be fewer because the compassion centers, as you might know, when they started out, they could only grow 99 plants. Legislation was changed the year before last so that they can grow as many plants as they feel that they need for their patients. So this later center, for example, is now growing a much larger grow. They'll be buying much less from caregivers.
Do you think that's part of the impetus behind this, is that there are perhaps a small number of caregivers who are growing a surplus and supplying it, and that's being eyed as something that the government thinks, hey, these people are making money off this program, and we want to address that?
Well, they're making, if they're making money, they're paying taxes like anybody else is on that too. But you'd have to ask them. But if that is what their intention was to focus on that small group of people, probably should have said so. Because that's not what the governor's proposal says.
And you wouldn't have to put a fee on the patients too, you could just put a fee on the
That's right.
caregivers, if that was your,
There you go.
okay.
Are there more caregivers now than there were a year ago?
There might be, but I'll tell you, the numbers for patients, if I had a graph, it would go like this. Here's the number of patients, and here's caregivers. They've sort of plateaued, actually. We only have about 3,000 caregivers. We have 13,000 patients. So the numbers, I can't tell you off the top of my head what the number was a year ago, but I think it was around the same, if, within a couple of hundred. It might have even been, we might have fewer, actually.
Would we be able to see those numbers? Is that available?
Sure, I'll get them for you.
Any other questions?
Do you think they have any clue on what it costs to grow?
What it costs to what?
The government, do you think they have any idea on what it costs to grow?
What it costs the
Electricity
patients?
bills are 500 plus to grow.
I don't know.
See, that's the problem.
They didn't ask us. They didn't ask us. I mean, they came out with a proposal. We were told that someone from the governor's office paid us a visit the week before this was announced, mentioned a couple of the changes, not the big ones. Asked us how we thought the program was going, and I kind of felt foolish because I was going on about the 7% tax at the compassion centers, how that should be removed, why are you taxing medicine? And now I realize I felt kind of foolish going on about that, and they just said, no, we don't think that's going to go.
Do you think they want to cut out the growers, the caregivers?
They did not say that that was their intention. We have had proposals in the past that said that more directly, and there was such an outcry from the patient community, because you have to remember, a lot of patients can't grow their own. Not everybody has the right place to grow their own. People who are living in crowded circuits, there's all kinds of reasons why people can't grow their own. And if they are fortunate enough to have someone in their life who will grow for them, they're very fortunate. So a lot of the caregivers are family members, their loved ones, their neighbors. As time has gone on, we're lucky. We have people like Ellen, people like Peter. They learn how to grow for themselves. They get approached by other people to grow for them. And so they become caregivers for other patients. So they're providing low-cost medicine. Those are very fortunate patients. This is what we can't lose this. We cannot lose this. So as I said, we're talking to people here who have had access to medicine, but there are a lot of people out there who don't. And Bobby was being modest, because when she talks about getting medicine from kind caregivers and other patients, she also delivers medicine to other patients who are homebound, who can't get out, who don't have relationships with caregivers and other patients, really. And so there's a lot of generosity that goes along with being a caregiver and a patient, and to a great extent in this community.
If this goes through, assuming that, would this make it challenging for this to continue, or does it make it impossible?
Impossible.
I think it would
It just
make
would
it,
shut down?
Yeah.
absolutely would make it impossible.
Yeah, it's
Possible.
pretty much signing my death certificate.
You can say goodbye to
I
the
mean-
three of us.
And I
Yeah.
think, absolutely, that's correct, and I think I think it would create a huge black market. And so I think what the governor's initial intent was to regulate a little bit more of the program. But she's gonna end up doing exactly the opposite with this proposal. this proposal will drive people, because people are not gonna sit there and die. They're gonna go out to the black market and do whatever they can to save their lives, to keep their quality of life at what it is today. And without that,
You know, the only people that stand to benefit that's the only market that stands to benefit of the people who are doing things. If you're doing the right thing, then you're gonna be taxed for it. If you're growing 50, 60, 70 plants somewhere in a warehouse or a basement or wherever, then those are the people that are gonna benefit. So this is so counterproductive, it's just, it's baffling. I really hope that it's ignorance that, you know, I don't know, for some reason we want to hurry up and slap things together and no investigation was done, because I know none of us heard from anyone. And I'm hoping it's ignorance, because if it's not, I can't imagine the motivation. I really can't. It's insane.
and actually, the governor's proposal projects that they'll raise, I think it's $8.4 million in revenue for her budget. And that probably amounts to about 0.00001% of the state's budget. I mean, that's a very small figure when you look at the size of the state's budget. So to try to make up $8.4 million on sick patients in this state is like I said before, it's cruel.
Really?
And it is baffling, and we can't figure it out. We can't figure it out how they came up with a figure that a plant is worth $17,000. If one marijuana plant was worth $17,000, we'd be having this conference, we'd be having this meeting today in Hawaii. We wouldn't be having it here. So where that figure came from, we have no idea. It's I mean, the whole thing is baffling. And I mean, the governor's silence on it so far is baffling as well, and just it's discouraging,
And frightening.
and frightening. And Ellen's absolutely right. I mean, just the proposal alone creates an anxiety on a patient, and there are some sick patients, and there are a lot of sick patients out there. And the anxiety alone is something that we have to deal with, and that's very difficult. So just when these proposals even come up, we already feel like we're being penalized for being sick, for having a disability.
And our options are what? Will we use opiates? That's a great idea. They're pouring money into getting people off opiates and all the problems with heroin overdoses, and I mean, so let's take away marijuana, something that I literally, after 5 years of daily use, had to stop immediately and had not one sign of withdrawal, not one. I had every effective MS after that I hadn't known about, but no withdrawal, none. Now, try that if you're on Vicodin for 5 years, or oxys, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's so beyond my realm of comprehension. What they should do is pour more money into the medical marijuana program and funding. Maybe we could get people off opiates using marijuana. Wouldn't that be interesting? Now there's a money maker, right? Let's forget about having to run around with Norcam or all this other garbage and having to get everyone off opiates. You're putting us on opiates is what you're trying to do. I mean, I can get that for $2 a month. I can have my opiates if I want them. There you go. I mean, what kind of sense does this make? Just no foresight, no thought.
Who do you think profits from opiate sales?
Oh, exactly. Who do you think profits from opiate sales? Ooh, the people who can't control our medicine. You
It's
know,
the large pharmaceuticals, obviously.
Exactly.
I mean, I think that everybody knows the answer to that question.
so attack the weak and the poor.
So Ellen, as a caregiver, you're gonna be allowed to have up to 24 plants. The tag for each one of those plants is gonna be $350.
Right.
You're looking at in excess of $8,000.
It's
So
not gonna happen.
is that what you're saying?
I'm saying we're
You
gonna shut
can't-
down. We're not
Because you
gonna be able to do it.
can't
We don't
get
have that
those
money.
expenses back?
I had to leave my teaching career in 2007, a job I loved, because I couldn't cope anymore with two incurable conditions. And I work every day just to stay alive. And there's no more extra money coming in. I fell through every crack because I had to leave my teaching career. I was getting a check for $85 for Social Security disability, and now instead I have to pay the government because now I'm 65. So now at 65 I have to take Medicare, and I owed them money to pay for Part B. So I don't get anything.
And your patients aren't able to provide you with
Oh
money
my
to help you
gosh.
cover that $350
No way.
plan?
There's no way. And how in my heart, if they could I then turn around and take compensation for what it cost me to grow that plant? How could I even think to ask them for anything at that point? We can't afford it. We will be shut down. I was telling Steve, and I might as well share this, that Monday night I have breathing episodes and my trachea twists and turns, and my husband's sound asleep, and I wonder if there's going to be a tomorrow. And, I laid there in bed thinking, am I going to wake up tomorrow? Am I going to live through this? Because there's nothing I can do but wait for the next day for help. And all of a sudden, what comforted me in a bizarre way was, oh my God, if I lost my life tonight, this is because of the added stress that this program and this proposal is putting into my life. Wouldn't that be wonderful to think that maybe they could use me as a martyr to prove to the governor, look what you've done. One person who's been an advocate since she started in 2007 now lost her life over stress that you've added to her life. And I know that sounds really silly, but that's how I got through the night, was thinking, well, maybe they can use my example to really wake up the governor and say, what are you doing to these poor people? Not one person in this room knows what tomorrow is going to happen to their lives. I didn't ask for my 2 conditions. They didn't ask for what happened to their lives. And the rest of you out there don't know what's going to happen to your life. And how would you feel if somebody had something that was working and then all of a sudden they pull the rug out from under you and it's going to be gone? You have no idea the anxiety. We are all living room constantly. The emails, the phone calls that we're getting from patients that are just mortified and so scared. No one knows what to do and what to think. And the thought that this is attached to this proposal and this budget, and we could wake up tomorrow and read the paper that it's all over, and this is it. This is my life we're talking. This is their lives. I don't have anything else I can turn to. This is it. And I don't have a job, and I can't go out and work anymore. My job is to keep myself alive from this point on. And I'm trying hard, and this is going to take that away. Sorry.
I think if Tina needs the money for her budget as much as she says she does, she should do it through legalization. Tax recreational users, and leave the sick people alone. There's no reason that they should be taxed. They're not taxed when they go to CVS to pick up their prescriptions, and they shouldn't be taxed on their medicine. And that's what the cannabis is, it's medicine. To us, it is medicine.